Hi everyone, and welcome to Audrey Arts. My name is Audrey Bennett, and I am a scribe from the East Kingdom in the Society for Creative Anachronism. I am primarily an illuminator, and today we're going to be talking about the use of the ruling pen, which is this handy little tool right here, which is fantastic for drawing straight lines in your work, excellent for good crisp lines with diapering, as well as the edges of various boxes such as bar and ivy, a lot of the trompe l'oeil, otherwise known as squashed bug. Great for stuff like that. Gives your work a really crisp, clean view, and we're going to talk about how to use that tool effectively. You can get this tool on Amazon. It's called a ruling pen, and I purchased mine through John Neal Booksellers because it's a little better quality pen, and I don't trust the ones on Amazon as much. So I'll go ahead and put a link at the bottom of the video so that you have that and can go get your own handy dandy tool for creating really nice straight lines with your gouache. So I'm going to go ahead and flip the camera around and we'll get started. Okay, so I'm all set up here. Forgive the setup. It's on a TV tray in the middle of my living room until I get my drafting table rearranged. Let's talk a little bit about the tools that we need for this. Obviously, you need gouache or your paint of preference. I use Whole Bean Artist's gouache. The particular color I'm going to use today is Carmine. It's my favorite red. It also happens to be the red that I'm using in a scroll I'm working on right now. So it's conveniently in my palette already. The other thing you'll need is a ruler, but not just any ruler. You're going to want a ruler that is cork backed, so that way the edge is lifted up off the paper. We don't want it flat on the paper. If you don't have a ruler that is cork backed, you can actually use a regular ruler and either tape or glue a couple of pennies or coins to the bottom of it just to bring the ruler itself up off the paper a little bit. It's a really good tip to if you can't find a corkback ruler or don't have one handy. So we'll need that. You'll need just a regular paintbrush, nothing amazing because you're going to use it to load the ruling pen. And of course you need your ruling pen. So I'm going to make sure I can show this to you. So the ruling pen has a dial on it. It allows you to spread the top teeth wider or make it more narrow, depending on how wide you want your line. So I'm a lefty, so I apologize in advance. It's going to probably be difficult for some of you to comprehend what I'm doing, but I'm going to try and make it as friendly as is possible. So the dial, you're going to turn until you get to the width of the line that you want, and you can go pretty wide with them, but understand that when you load it, the water tension from your gouache is really what's going to keep it inside the pen. You don't want it too wide, otherwise you just get an affectionately called paint blorp on your paper. So I like to use it for pretty narrow lines, so I keep mine pretty narrow, and I keep wiping the end because I was using it for mini autumn to put really narrow gold leaf lines down. So that's the ruling pen. The paper that I'm using is just Strathmore 300, Series 300 Bristol. I prefer the vellum finish. You can use the smooth finish if you want. It makes really no difference. I just like the texture of the vellum finish better. And then you can start to play. So I'm going to draw a couple of quick lines with my ruler and my pencil just so that you can see what I'm doing. Just so that you can see the lines there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruling pen And so when you're looking at the ruling pen, there's a curved edge and a straight edge. Whatever, you want the straight edge up against your ruler. So for me, being a lefty, the right-hand side is going to be up against my ruler. So I'm going to make sure that when I'm loading my paint, I'm loading it from this side. I want to make sure that I'm loading it on the top of the ruling pen as opposed to loading it and then flipping it. It's going to cause the paint to kind of go out everywhere. When I load my paint, I tend to make my paint a little thinner, but only just a little thinner than what I would use to actually paint scrolls with. So all I do is I load my brush, and then I'm gonna pull it onto the ruling pen, and you'll see it sort of fill that gap. And you can load quite a bit in there. Don't get too carried away because it will kind of go everywhere. So now there's some paint kind of leaking out the top. That's why we're not going to rotate the pen and use that side to draw our lines. You see it's nice and clean on the side that's actually going to touch the paper. So then I'm going to pick my ruler up. I'm going to set my ruler up against my line, and I'm going to carefully put the point of the ruling pen down. Because I'm working at a slope, I'm going to tilt it a little bit more than I would normally. And then I'm going to drag my line. And that gives me a really crisp, clean line. And you're going to want to practice with it a few times before you actually put it on any scroll or any work that you're working on. Because it can be a little tricky, especially if you don't have your ruling pen set narrow enough. I'm going to widen it out a little bit because I want to show you a little wider line. Add a little more paint here. Boop. And I'm going to go here. Like I said, I'm a lefty, so I made the mistake of not using this line first. I'll be dragging my ruler through it. And there's a really nice wider line. And see how crisp that line is? It gives you a really nice edge to things like the frames in squashed bug work. Your bar and ivy is going to look amazing if you use this to tighten that line up, the edges up. I have used it for things like straight line diapering, which is really handy. I do have a couple of tests on this page here to show you how you can use it for diapering, so hopefully it's still in focus. These are diamonds that I just created. I didn't measure them or anything, but they're there. I'm gonna tighten my pen back up a little bit because I want more narrow lines. And line my ruler up and run right along it. Really simple, really quick. Find my line again. Boop. There we go. Really nice parallel lines. Really great for diapering. Again, I have to give it a second to let the gouache dry just a little bit. Otherwise, when I run the ruler along the existing paint lines, it will smear the paint, and we don't want to do that. So I'll give it a second here. Maybe even blow some air at it. Shouldn't take too long because it's really, really thin lines. Yeah, see, it's already... If I touch it, it's still wet, so we're going to give it a second here. Check the other one, see how dry it is. I'm going to be really... My teacher would be panicking right now. I can feel her from here. But that gives you a nice crisp line, and then you can go in and fill those diamonds in for your diapering really easy. And then you've created that diamond shape really easy, or square shape, however you want to do it, just by using your ruling pen. And then when you go in with your paintbrush, and this is my not great paintbrush because it's the one that I use just for loading, you get the really nice crisp diamond lines, so you don't have to worry about that being unclean or fidgety. It's a nice cheat to make that diapering look really smooth. And then you can go in and clean it up if you need to. I'm shaking just a touch because it is almost 1 o'clock in the morning, but about the only time I can record anything with any reasonable hope of not having interruptions from animals or children is to do personal recording after about midnight. So you see how clean those diamonds are just from using the ruling pen. Of course, this brush is terrible, so I've messed up that line there, but that's okay. You can get the point from using the ruling pen. So I'm gonna set that down. So again, the ruling pen, and you can wash it just like you would any other tool. Just be really careful to make sure you wash it and dry it because they are metal. And this particular one, I accidentally left out and it did rust a little bit. So I don't want to do that again. Take care of your tools. So I'll go ahead and put the link to John Neal in the video below. That way you can pick up your very own ruling pen and start playing with it. I encourage you to spend some time playing with it and making lines wider, more narrow, working on different surfaces. With if you're using pergaminata, you want to go just a touch drier, because it will, even though it's a thin line, it will still cause the perg to buckle a little bit if you're not careful. Either tape it down really well and then do it, or just run a little drier. But you can try all kinds of fun things using a ruling pen. So I hope you guys liked that video, and I hope you found it useful. And if you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My contact information will be at the end of the video.